everybody. Welcome back. I'm Taylor, and today we are going to be talking about HBO Max's new, well, I guess it's somewhat new series, Our Flag Means Death. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, go ahead and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video here on Critical Commentary. Did you hit it? Are you sure? Because I'm trying to monetize this channel, so like any subscription I can get, I will totally be so appreciative of. Thank you. I'm really excited to talk about this series with you all. I wasn't really sure how I wanted to do this video, and I feel like this happens for every like why you should be watching it styled video. I'm never 100% sure like how far I should go into the storyline because I don't want to ruin it. I want people to experience the story themselves, but at the same time, I gotta give you a reason to watching because I felt like this show really is kind of in a gray area. It is doing critically well with a pretty high Rotten Tomatoes score, and it's even like most sought after streaming series, but I don't feel like I'm seeing a lot of dialogue around this show outside of gay Twitter. Coincidence? I think not. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll give you a brief description, and as I do in most of my why you should be watching it videos, I will kind of get into a little bit of spoilers, but I promise to keep everything kind of out of context, mostly just to give you an idea of why I think this show would be worth your time. Let's get into it. Our Flag Means Death centers around Rhys Darby's character, Stede Bonnet, who decides one day to just give up his wealth and family so that he can become the first gentleman pirate. And he builds a ship and pays for this ragtag crew that is filled with a bunch of eccentric people. And he decides, he's going to be a pirate captain, and they're going to have adventures on the sea.
But that goes terribly wrong.
Stede Bonnet is a horrible captain. I mean, he's a good captain in that he does as he described it, pro people management style, which is just like so funny because it feels like a kind of office styled show in that it does feel like a little bit of a workplace comedy, but at the same time it's this like swashbuckling kind of epic tale that's funny and kind of vulgar and mature. While Stede is being a very bad captain, his crew decides to just pull a mutiny on him. They're like, you know what, Stede, you're bad, so we're going to just mutiny. And in the process of doing that, they kind of get taken over by Taika Waititi's Blackbeard and his right-hand man, Izzy, who everyone hates. He's like the character everyone loves to hate on. It's great. Once Stede and his crew are under Blackbeard's control, you would think that, this is about to be a really, really bad and horrible experience, but that's kind of where the story just takes off. And it's really, really interesting because this is based off of a historical account where Stede Bonnet, who is a real person, was held under a sort of hostage, house arrest kind of thing. But the show implies and even confirms what they think really happened during this time where he was held hostage. I think it's so interesting how dichotomous my experiences have been with the series in regards to who I'm talking to and what medium I'm using to discuss the series with. Online, I feel like there's a lot of love and support for the series and a lot of people really hoping that there's a season 2, which I am also on that bandwagon for. But then I've talked to people in my like physical life and they either don't know what I'm talking about, or once I'm even able to explain the series to them, just don't see like they get what I'm recommending. This show 100% feels like a passion project because it not only plays with historical fiction in a way that is adult but also somewhat educational, and it kind of feels a little fanficky, and then top that with a pretty star-studded cast of really good and like kind of high in their careers comedians, with people like Reese Darby, Taika Waititi, Leslie Jones, Fred Armisen, even Will Arnett. There's so many people in this series that you'll go, hold on, I know them. And you've seen them in something else, you've liked them in something else. There's even, hold on, I have his name here. Christian Narn, who plays Hodor in Game of Thrones. He plays an amazingly just like teddy bear wise giant kind of character, but in a way that I think is just so funny. And you could even say that it maybe plays a little bit homage to the Hodor character, but I don't think it does in a way that typecasts him. I just think it's a little bit reminiscent, and I love that. Other notable people that I wanted to say that made an impression in the series for me that I just felt like I had to bring up was Joel Fry, who is in Cruella. He's, I think, Jasper in Cruella. He just made a huge impression on me in that movie, and then I saw him again in the series, and he's so funny and he's so adorable. I loved him. I also wanted to bring up, I have my notes on my iPad here. I also wanted to bring up that Samson Kayo, who plays Aluwanda, he is so great, so funny. He was easily my favorite character. So yeah, this has like a pretty great cast, right? So if it's great and it's funny and it's solid, why aren't people watching this series? I don't understand. To be honest, I think it might be because it's LGBTQAF. What makes this show, I think, so compelling is not just because it kind of plays into the historical aspect of just speculative fiction, but also, I know I said before that I felt like this series kind of reminds me of an office-styled workplace comedy. And I do still stick with that, but I would also even add the idea of that chosen family. I felt moments of kind of like Modern Family and Community when I was thinking of this part of it, just because not everyone's related. No one's really related except for one character, which is technically the same actor playing two different characters. So there's no like blood loyalty. The loyalty that's demonstrated by the characters is because it's chosen. And I think that some of the relationships that are built are really great, both platonic and romantic. Some of the reasons why I feel like this series isn't doing so well is mostly because I think there's this weird, I don't know, I don't want to say there's like a genderization towards a genre, but I do feel like cowboys and pirates are kind of in this really weird gray space where there are historical queer subtext to these genres, but at the same time, we have been conditioned to seeing them in a more heteronormative lens. I think this is why the appeal is so hard to capitalize on, is because I think people focus so much on the LGBTQ aspect of the story that they don't really consider that this is still a pirate show, and you're still getting all the same aspects that you would get from something like Pirates of the Caribbean. Yes, Pirates of the Caribbean is more, dark and gritty and built in with action, but it still connects with that love story. Everybody was still really, really hoping that Elizabeth and Will Turner were going to end up together, and don't even look at me and tell me that you were not invested. When you have great cast and then you have really great writing on top of it, I just think it really adds to an amazing series. And I mean, I'm not going to say that I think the series is perfect. I would say that I could tell that everything felt a little bit soundstagey, which is fine. You know, you can tell that you're not really on a boat. You can tell that, you know, some of the rooms you can tell are very, you know, they're very claustrophobic. And so because everything feels so smaller in scale, I can see how someone might look at this series and think it's just cheap and not worth your time. And I think that a bit of the low budget appeal is you start to see how much you're like, oh, okay, it's cute and it's quirky, but it's still intelligent and it does still make me think, but at the same time, it is kind of stupid. And I love how it could serve as a guilty pleasure for some, but it could also serve as a really, truly like empowering series for others. So I really just felt like I had to talk about it because I just never, I don't know, for me, it really stuck out to me. There's a lot of like I've noticed a lot of LGBTQ content that's been coming out, especially this year and like the last month alone, because we've gotten Heartstopper, obviously this. We have Crush that's on Hulu. I know that it's a long time coming. It's not like this isn't new, but I do think that having these shows that aren't inherently straight anymore are kind of they're challenging, yes, and are they maybe isolating a good portion of their audience? Maybe, but at the same time, there's so much better and more authentic stories, and I think that maybe having that cult classic feel isn't a bad thing. Cult classics tend to start off being more obscure and then eventually they become bigger properties. For like example, The Princess Bride. That was a cult classic. When that movie first came out, a lot of people were not into it. They thought it was weird, and it has very similar. It's interesting that I'm bringing this up now because Our Flag Means Death has very similar humor. There's a mixture of both British, New Zealand, and American humor in this show, and that's what makes it so interesting. Characters are a little bit more personified by the fact that they're also using their original accent. They're not really focusing so much on trying to be historically accurate to the time. It's more so everyone's being themselves, and with that comes certain line deliveries that are just really unique, and I think they blend super well together. And I don't know, I loved it. I'll be very honest. So when I first started watching Our Flag Means Death, I was a little confused because I knew nothing about the series. I don't think I had seen a trailer or anything. It just popped up, and I was at home on like a Friday night during finals, and I think I just randomly decided to watch it. And when I was watching the first episode, I was so just thrown off because it is so tonally weird, because there is multiple groups of people working on this project. You can feel that it's a community driven story, which is great. But it kind of made me a little bit not sure what the show was. And the reason why I'm kind of bringing in this LGBTQ, and I keep bringing this up, is because that is actually what made me decide to come back and finish the story. I think that, you know, at the time of recording, I just saw Multiverse of Madness, and I'm not going to do a video on that. Don't ask me for one. I'm not doing it.
Who had been saying that? Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
But I will say, I feel like sometimes there is a sanitization of LGBTQ characters, especially in the situation where you want something to be more mainstream. And where I'm getting in a Multiverse of Madness is with America Chavez. America Chavez is canonically queer and has two moms, and I feel like the way that they kind of handled it is the traditional Disney way of like vaguely hinting at things and queer baiting people. It's why a lot of the Supernatural fan base kind of felt really cheated by the fact that they killed off Castiel right as he admits that he's in love with Dean. You can tell that I'm talking about this from like actual experience. Oh my God. Queerbaiting is a really big problem in media, and I think that it's important to bring up because this show doesn't do that. And you don't have to be, you know, of the LGBTQ community to enjoy it. That's the thing that I think people don't really seem to understand. The story is just funny. Like, yes, it might be a little bit camp and it might be a little silly, but at the same time, a lot of comedy is that. And I just think that when you kind of pick and choose what can be considered funny is, I don't know, I think it's a little bit weird. It's like, no, it's not so much that we don't find things funny anymore. It's that we are starting to raise the standard of how you can be humorous. And I think that this show attempts that. This show is funny. This show makes fun of itself. It's self-aware in a way that isn't too narcissistic. And I think that all of the cast members are really having a great time. And so they feel like they're happy to be there. And I think that shows. And so when I was watching it, I just felt very much pulled in. And I kind of want to, like, now that I'm talking about it, kind of want to go and watch it over again. So I'm going to end this video. For those of you who have seen the show, what did I miss? Did I forget to bring up anything that you think would be really important for those who have not seen the show? Please make sure that if you do leave a comment with like recommendations about that, or like if you have anything to say about the show, to please mark spoilers if you have any in those comments, just so we're not ruining it for everybody. So what did you think about this review? Did you like it? Are you going to try and see this series now that I have rambled on about it for hours with you all? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at CriticalCom with 2M's TV. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Bye, guys.